Hi everyone, it's me, Spring, the fiber enthusiast, and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to make this beautiful crocheted cowl. Now, I know that at the making of this video, we are going into the hot summer months in most of the United States. So this would be considered a early Christmas present. Anyway, I fancy this style of cowl so much. It is my favorite to make. The main reason I like this style of cowl is because of how much it comes down onto the chest, but not on your back. It helps with, you put a jacket on, you don't have to zip it all the way up every time. Gives you a little style underneath of your jacket, and it keeps your chest warm and to help keep from getting sick. So, I mean, this isn't going to prevent you from getting sick, but you know what I mean. So let's go over what we're going to use to make this cowl, or, go over the yarns and yardage and what you need to make it, and we will get started. I have a pair of scissors, a crochet hook. The crochet hook is entirely up to you, whether you want to, up or down, depending on your style of crocheting. For instance, this is a 4.25 crochet hook, and the yarn I used was a lightweight 4 to a 3. The blue here was a very, very light weight yarn, more of a 3 than a 4. And then the white that I used is more of a lightweight 4. So I used a smaller hook than the general for your 4-weight yarn, but nevertheless, it's just my preference. If you would like to use a comparable hook to the, your yarn, something that's complementary to your yarn and your crochet style, that is up to you. I'm going to give you the overall what I did, how I did it, and your choice of yarn, your choice of hook is up to you. You're going to want a couple stitch markers and a darning needle for sewing in the ends at the end. I'm going to move those all out of the way. Now this blue here is this gazelle, I think. Rock and roll. It's a 50-gram ball, and it is 115 meters or 125 yards. Now I had 3 of them. I used all 3 of them. Now the contents of the fiber was Lana Merino, 9%, 70% polyamide, and 21% acrylic. That was for the blue. And again, as I said, I used all 3 balls that I had. And I needed more length to it, so I went and found something that was going to be pretty, nicely blended as far as the weight of the yarn and as well as color. So I went digging, and I had a couple balls of this. I'm sorry, I cannot say the name, but here we go. It says that it's an Aran, but again, I'm going to say that it's on the lighter side when you start working with it. But it is nice. These are a 50-gram ball as well, but they are 120 yards versus 125 yards. Let's see what we can find here. It is... Okay, so we have 36% acrylic, 30% wool, 30% nylon, and 4% polyester. So we, again, have the acrylic and the wool. The only difference is we have a nylon added in there, but for the most part, it's very forgiving, just like the blue is. Let's see if there's a colorway on it. This has a lot number. Color number for the blue is 13192, so 13192. And Pretty Pearl 0200 is the color of this white. So that is what I used. Now I will go over the total amounts of yardage used. For the white, I used 138 yards total. So I just barely broke into the second donut, and I measured it out with my yarn counter, and that's how I got how much yarn was used. Now you may use more or less. It depends on, you know, your style and how big you want your cowl to be. For the blue, I used a total of 315 yards. That gives me a total of 513 yards used for my cowl. Again, this is all going to be dependent on you and your style, the yarn you choose, the hook, all of that. You can make it as long as you wish. You can make it as short as you wish. That is up to you. The basic goal here is I'm going to show you the stitch pattern, the stitch repeat, and then let you make it however long you want. And then I'll come back and show you how to join it together and crochet it all together. For the tutorial, I'm just going to use standard, worsted weight scrap ball of yarn that I have laying around, as I have already made my bigger project. I'm not making another one. So we need to do a chain of 41. You can make this wider, smaller, whatever. It's up to you. That all of this is dependent on you and what your like is. All I want to do is show you how I design the pattern, the repeats, and get you started, and then show you how to finish it. Because it's very, very easy repeats. It's 10 rows. But for this, we're going to chain 41, which is what I chained for the original cowl. So go ahead and put a slip knot on your hook and chain 41. I'll be back once I have my 41 chains. Once you have your 41 chains, you are going to double crochet into the 4th chain from your hook. So the loop on your hook is just that, a loop on your hook. You're going to count back 1, 2, 3, and into the 4th chain, you're going to place a double crochet. Now you can work into the spine of the stitch or into the front V part of the stitch. That is up to you. For the original project, I did work into the spine. 1, 2, there we go. Place a double crochet into your next stitch. And now we're going to do a puff V-stitch. So we're going to skip our next stitch and into the following. You're going to yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, and pull up a loop. You should have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to make sure that those loops stay double crochet height, because we're going to start collecting our loops on our hook. We have 3 now. I'm going to place my finger onto those, holding them in place, and yarn over, add that to the group that's under my finger, insert my hook, yarn over, and pull up a loop. We now have 2, 4, 5. We're going to do this one more time. Yarn over, insert your hook, all into that same stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop. So now we have 2, 4, 6, 7 loops on our hook. You're going to yarn over and pull through all 7. chain 2. You're going to go back into that same stitch and repeat what you just did. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. You're going to do that 2 more times. Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. That's 1. Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. That's 2. You should have 7 loops on your hook at this time. Yarn over and pull through all 7 loops and chain 1. Now, since we stretched that stitch out, you're going to want to make sure that you skip the very next stitch. Now, it might have to be adjusted a little bit so you can see it. And we're going to place 1 double crochet in each of the following 3 stitches. So skip 1 and double crochet 1 double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And then you repeat. We're going to skip a stitch and place a puff V-stitch into the following stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop for a total of 3 times. It's 2 and 3. Yarn over and pull through all 7 loops, chain 2, 1 and 2. And we're going to go back into that same stitch and do it all over again. There's 1, 2, and 3. 7 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull through all 7. Chain 1. Skip your next stitch and place 1 double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. That is your repeat to the end of the row. Go ahead and continue working with that repeat to the end of your row, and once you've reached the end, I will meet back up with you. Okay, I finished my last 3 double crochets. So you will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 repeats and 3 double crochets. So you have your first 3 double crochets, including that chain 3 at the beginning, and your puff V-stitch. And that is the repeat all the way down to the end. So now we're going to chain 1, 2, and 3 and turn your work over. Now we're going to start adding in our relief stitches. Once you've passed your very first row, it makes it go a lot faster because we're working around post and into chain spaces. We are not working into any stitches except for the very ends of our work. You're going to yarn over and we're going to do a front post double crochet on each of the next 2 double crochets. So we're going behind that post, yarning over, pulling up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. We're going to do that one more time together. Going behind the post, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. Now into your chain space between the 2 puff stitches, you're going to do another puff V-stitch. So same thing as you did before. We're going to yarn over and go through, picking up loops 3 times until we have 7 loops on our hook. Once you have 7 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through, and chain 2, 1, 2. Back into that same chain space. We're going to do that again till we have 7 loops on our hook. Make sure your loops are the height of a double crochet. Pull through all 7 and chain 1. Now you're going to front post double crochet around the next 3 double crochets. And this is your repeat. So front post double crochet, three times, and then into the chain space between your puff stitches, we're going to place another puff V-stitch. Continue this repeat to the end of the row. You're going to place a double crochet into the top of your chain at the very end. So front post your double crochets and place a puff V-stitch into the chain space of your previous puff V-stitch. When I have come to my very last stitch, I will meet back up with you. Once you've reached the end, you'll have two front post double crochets, and then you have your chain down here at the end. You're going to double crochet into the top of that chain. So at the very ends of your work, you're going to have double crochet on each end, a chain 3 and a double crochet, which your chain 3 is equal to a double crochet. All right, so for row 3, we're going to chain 1, 2, 3, turn our work, and now we're going to do a back post double crochet. So you're going to yarn over and come in from behind your work, up and over that post and out the other side. So our hook is behind our work. Yarn over and pull a loop through, and then finish your double crochet. That is a back post. We'll do that again. Yarn over, go from behind your work, over the top of your double crochet, yarn over, pull a loop through, and double crochet. So that is your back post double crochet for this row. And then again, we're going to do a puff V-stitch into the chain space between our puffs stitches from the row below. 7 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 7 and chain 1, 2. And do it again in that same chain space. There's 1, 2, and 3. 7 loops on my hook, yarning over and pulling through all 7 and chaining 1. Then you're going to do 1 back post double crochet around each of the next 3 stitches. And that is your repeat. Puff V-stitch into the chain space of the previous row puff V-stitch, and back post double crochet around the stitches, the 3 stitches after. Okay, so continue on to the end of the row, and I'll meet up with you at the very last stitch of row 3. Okay, I've come up to the last stitch of row 3. Again, we're just going to place a double crochet into the top of that chain 3. Chain 1, 2, 3, and turn your work for row 4. Row 4, you will simply repeat row 2. Front post double crochet your front post double crochet, and place a puff V-stitch into the chain space of the previous puff V-stitch from the row below. That is your repeat for row 4. For every front post double crochet, you front post double crochet. And then continue to place the puff V-stitches into the chain space of the previous row. When you get to the last stitch of row 4, you will place 1 double crochet into the top of your chain 3. I will meet up with you at the end of row 4. Just continue with your repeat. Okay, I've reached the end down here. I'm at my last stitch of row 4. I'm going to place a double crochet into the top of my chain 3. Chain 1, 2, 3, and turn your work. So for row 5, you're going to repeat row 3. We have back post double crochet, so yarn over and back post double crochet each of the first 2 stitches. And then place a puff V-stitch into the chain space. Place 1 back post double crochet around each of the next 3 stitches, and that is your repeat. When you get to the end, you will double crochet into your very last stitch. That is row 5. I will meet up with you at the end of row 5, and we will begin row 6. Okay, so I've come to the end of row 5. I'm going to place my single double crochet, standing double crochet down here at the very last stitch. Chain 1, 2, 3, and turn my work over. Now, one more time, we are going to repeat row 2. And then we're going to turn our work over and do row 2 one more time. So, row 2 is front post those first 2 stitches and place a V-stitch, puff V-stitch into the puffed V-stitch chain space. Chain 1, 2, and another puff. This puff V-stitch starts your repeat. You're going to place a 1 front post double crochet around each of the next 3 stitches and repeat that to the end of the row. Once you have reached the last stitch, you will place a double crochet into the top of your chain 3 into your very last stitch. So go ahead and continue repeating your 3 front post double crochets and the puff V stitches. And I will meet up with you at the end of the row and we will begin the next row. Row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Row 7. Okay, so I've come down to the very last stitch, which again is just a double crochet into the top of your chain 3. Now I'm going to change colors here, and the reason I'm going to change colors is because I want to show you where the change is and how you can keep up with it very easily. Once you get going, it's easy to count what row you're on. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in a very high contrasting color, yellow, and work the next section in it. So I'm going to finish that double crochet with this yellow. Now you're going to chain 1, 2, 3, just as we've been doing. Turn your work over And we're going to repeat row 2 again. So basically what we're doing here is we're doing the opposite. We're reversing the pattern. So an easy way to count what row you're, where you are in the pattern is these ridges from your front post, back post. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I know that this is the 5th ridge. It's time to reverse the pattern. So now we're going to front post our back post and get them going the opposite direction. Get my yarn situated here. Okay, so we're repeating row 2. Front post your next 2 stitches. Front post double crochet. And place a puff V-stitch into the chain 1 that stays the same. It's going to get bulkier because this is heavier yarn than the purple is. Chain 2 and another puff. Chain 1. Front post around each of the next 3 stitches. So front post double crochet around each of the next 3 stitches. Now that's your repeat. Do your puff V-stitch into the chain space of the previous puff V-stitch from the row below. And then front post double crochet around your previous double crochet stitches. So one more time, we're going to puff V-stitch. And then front post double crochet around each of the next 3 stitches. Continue that repeat to the end, and you are still going to place 1 double crochet into the top of your chain 3 at the end of the row. When we've reached the end of the row, I will meet back up with you and we will begin our next row, which is row 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, row 8. Okay, so for row 8, we're going to chain 3 and turn our work. And here you can see the ridge has now switched sides. It's went from the back of the work to the front of the work. So now you're going to repeat row 3. Row 3 is to simply back post the next 2 stitches. Back post double crochet each of the next 2 stitches, and now place a puff V-stitch into the chain space of the puff V from the row below. And then place 1 back post double crochet around each of the next 3 stitches. That is your repeat all the way to the end of the row. Go ahead and continue and repeat row 3 for row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so I've come to the end of row 8. I'm going to chain 3 and turn my work. And back to repeating row 2. So you're repeating rows 2 and 3. The only time it changes is after you have reached 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 rows we changed. After the first 6 rows we changed, and swapped it around so that way now our front post are being back post and our back post are now being front post. And we're going to repeat again rows 2 and 3 until we have 5 more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more ridges in the yellow. So you're repeating rows 2 and 3 and alternating which direction your front post ridges are going, whether it's on the back or the front. So 1 front post double crochet around each of the next 3 stitches, and then puff V-stitch into the chain space of the puff V-stitch from the row below. And that is your repeat for row 9. When I've reached the end of row 9, where I place 1 double crochet into the top of my chain 3, I will be back and we will begin row 10. So I've made it to the end of row 9. We're going to chain 1, 2, and 3. Turn your work over. And this is a back post row. Back post double crochet your first 2 stitches. And puff V-stitch into the chain space of the previous puff V-stitch. And back post the next 3 stitches. So double crochet, back post double crochet each of the next 3 stitches. And that is your repeat for row 10. I will meet up with you at the end where I have placed 1 double crochet into the very last stitch. Once I have done that, we will begin row 11. Okay, so I've made it to the end of row 10. Let's chain 3 and begin row 11. Turn your work over. And this is a front post row. So place 1 front post double crochet around the next 2 stitches. And a puff V-stitch into the chain space of the previous puff V-stitch. This begins your repeat. One front post double crochet around each of the next 3 stitches. And that is your repeat to the end of the row for row 11. Placing 1 double crochet into the top of your very last stitch. Once you have reached the end of row 11, we will meet back up and begin row 12. Okay, so we have reached the end of row 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now you're going to simply repeat rows 2 through 11 for the length of your project you desire, for the length of the cowl that you desire. I will give you my dimensions were a little over 36 to 37 inches in length. Again, that's just my desired length. For the width of mine, from side to side. It's approximately 11.5 inches wide with this weight yarn, which is a lightweight 4, a heavier 3. So that was the width, and again, the length of mine was about 36, 37 inches long. You can make yours longer, shorter, however you wish. So that is it to the pattern. You're just simply going to begin row 12 the same as row 2. You're going to chain up 3. I'm going to start it with you just so you get the hang of it. Start it with you. So row 2 is front post. So we're taking these back post and turning them into front post. Front post double crochet your first 2 stitches. And then puff V-stitch into the chain space of the previous puff V-stitch. And then place 1 front post double crochet around each of the next 3 stitches. That is your repeat. Puff V-stitch into the puff V-stitch and front post double crochet around the next 3 stitches. Just like that. So we'll take a quick closer look. We started with front post, back post, creating this on one side rows of puff V stitches and front post double crochets. And if we turn our work over, there was 5 ridges that were created by using the front post, back post. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we switched the pattern and did the exact opposite. Again, front post, back post. So now where we had these going straight up and down front post, now we have going horizontally these ridges, and there's 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we switched back to create again the same effect that we had for the first section, this first section here. Now you can alternate colors like this if you want to. You can do the whole thing in solid. It is completely and entirely up to you how many repeats you do, that type of thing, what kind of yarn you use. Just remember, the bulkier the yarn, the bulkier the project. The bigger the hook, the bigger the project's going to be. The smaller, lighter weight yarn in the smaller hook is going to cause it to be extremely small. So this being mid-weight, this particular is a 4-weight, but the original project is a middle-of-the-road weight. It's not heavy. It's not quite a good worsted weight, but it's not a light fingering or 2-weight yarn, sport weight, that type of stuff. So choice of yarn, choice of hook, it's all up to you as to what you use. I've given you the details as to what I used and the measurements of mine. And of course, it may differ because we all crochet a little differently. Go ahead and continue on, and I will be back once I get the length of my project done, and I will show you how to join the 2 pieces together and finish it up. Okay, so once you have the length that you desire, mine is approximately 37 inches long. I did run out of the blue that I was working with and ended up going on a hunt and found something somewhat comparable, and with it being a white, it's fine. It'll work. It will be perfectly okay. But at any rate, you can make this however you want. You can make it shorter and a regular standard cowl where you bring the two ends together like this and sew them together, or you can do it as I'm going to be doing it. This is my preferred style of cowl. I like this style because of how it goes under the lapel of your coats, and how it comes down and helps keep your chest warm. So with this actually having white on it, it's going to make it much easier for you to see what I'm doing here. So what I do is I bring it down at an angle. So we're like this. And then you bring the other corner over the top. And then you start matching your corners up. So pinch together your corners. Now, basically, if you want to look at this flat, it's the two bottom corners that you're bringing together. The only difference is your top corners cross over each other. They do not match up. So we bring those two corners together, and then you can bring this side all the way over and kind of give it a little shake to get it into place, like such. And then work the back and this side till they meet. And where they meet, you can put a stitch marker just to kind of hold everything in place. So I'll grab some stitch markers here to do so. So I know that it's laying flat and everything's meeting up right here. So I'll put a stitch marker there. Then I already have a stitch marker here on this corner where my extra is, where my tail is. So I'm going to find the corner down here and just hook it together. Then I'm going to go to this opposite side and get another stitch marker. And I'm going to match up my sides over here. Now, I got lucky enough that the white and the blue all come together exactly the same. Now I'm going to crochet over the top of these tails, so I'm not too worried about them. But I am going to go ahead and get these corners together here, just like that. All right, so here we are. We have it all together, all at an angle. And now all we're going to do is single crochet these two together all the way up this side to start with. So I'm going to start in the same corner as where I left off with my last row. And I'm going to insert my hook into that corner, and I'm going to just slip stitch these corners together like that. Now I'm connected. So then all you're going to do is you're going to work down the side. And if you remember that a double crochet is 2 stitches, it makes it easier to place stitches as you go. So here I have a double crochet right here because we're working on the beginning here. So we're working on stitches into the actually your base chain right here. And then on the end, we're working on the side of stitches. So I'm going around my double crochet and into the chain stitch where 1 double crochet is on the front panel. Let's see if I can get you to see this better. So you see I'm in that chain stitch where that double crochet is. And I'm just going to be single crocheting. So I've got one more to put into that same double crochet around that and into our very next stitch and single crochet. Pull that up a little bit. So I have a single crochet into this very first double crochet made and into the very second double crochet made, and it's around our double crochet down here at the very end. Now we're going to go into this. The next we have a puff stitch. So what I'm going to do is, remember we skipped chain. I'm going to go into that skipped chain space and single crochet. Now I'm going to go in around that double crochet again and into the bottom of that V puff stitch. Get a little more yarn here. Now I'm going to move to my next double crochet and I'm going to go in and around it. I'm sorry I keep moving out of camera here. And I'm going to work into that next empty space, the empty skip chain space. And one more time around that double crochet. And I'm going to go into where our first double crochet is after those puff V-stitch. And it's just single crocheting all the way. Just like this. So continue working in that manner all the way up. You're just going to keep working, single crocheting these two pieces together. When you come to your first stitch marker up here, I will come back and let you know what to do next. Okay, so I'm coming up here to my last stitch. And I'm going to go ahead and single crochet that stitch. I'm going to go ahead and remove my stitch marker now from this corner. And all I'm going to do is turn my work a little bit so that way I can start working down the back part, what would go around your back. And I'm going to single crochet all the way down, and I am going to be going over the top of these tails. And you're going to do so just as if you were single crocheting on any project. You're just going to find those stitches and work down those stitches. Now you're working at the ends of, or on the side, on the post of the double crochets. So you're going to want to evenly place your stitches. The general rule of thumb is 2 single crochets per double crochet post. So just continue working all the way around to your next stitch marker, placing your single crochets all the way around. We're just trimming the edge like this. And once you've made it all the way around to your next stitch marker, you're going to make sure that your fabric, your 2 fabrics are lined up still, nice and neat, and start single crocheting those together just as you did on the other side. I'll be back with you in just a few moments and we will start on the next part. Okay, so once you have made it all the way around and you're back to your starting point, you're just going to simply slip stitch to your very first single crochet. And I chain 2. And then I'll cut my yarn, and I'll show you why I chain 2. Cut my yarn, pull that loop all the way through, and then I pinch down where those chains are and give it a good snug and push it towards my work like that. And now I'll just sew that end into my work. So now we have all the way around single crochet trim. And now the next part is completely optional. This is entirely up to you. I'm going to adjust the camera. So now we have it all connected, all together. The next step is like I said, completely optional. You can single crochet, which I'm going to do all the way around behind the neck. And then all you do is just adjust your work so that way you can work down the inside here. And then push it back through. Once it is completely trimmed. And the reason I'm going to is because I like that neat, clean edge, and I'm going to be folding this over so it has a collar, and you will be seeing some of that white. So by trimming it in white, it'll kind of tie it all together. Again, this is optional. If you had enough yarn to do it in one solid color and you don't want to trim it for that extra thick, edging, that's perfectly okay. If you want to do the crab stitch, which is a reverse single, you can do that. You can do whatever stitch you want to do. I'm suggesting either a slip stitch or a single crochet, just to minimize how much bulk is up here around your neck. But that is it. That's all there is to it. I'm going to go ahead and finish trimming this edge up here all the way down. And then once I have my ends sewn in, I will take some pictures on the mannequin. And you should have seen them as the thumbnail. And I will add some in here at the end of the video. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. And if you make this, I would love to see your work. And you can share it with me via email. Tag me on Instagram. And you can also share it in our Facebook group. Again, if you don't have Facebook, that's okay. If you don't have Instagram, that's okay. Like I said, you can email it to me. All of that information is down in the description box below. You're going to click the little see more and then the little down arrow or vice versa. And it'll open up your description area so that way you can see everything down there in the description box. So be blessed, be a blessing, and until next time, bye for now.